Greetings and welcome. I'm Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well today. So the case continues, and just a quick mention, the show is about true crime, so this will be dealing with some serious issues, and these are my opinions and need to be tested in a court of law. All right, so we're going to do an update, quite a quick update, or more recent update. So we are looking at the update, and I believe we may have stumbled onto something here. All right, so this was the original chart in the first episode. Now, I've just updated it with more information, and I had received Patrick's date of birth by a great viewer. Thank you very much. I'll keep you anonymous just in case. All things are alleged. And then I was able to find his father, Oren, who is obviously a famous Aussie rules football player. I know it's similar to rugby in some ways. All right, but so his date of birth was quite easily accessible, being quite famous and well known. Of course, terrible news of Samantha, and prayers and thoughts go out to her family. Now, I've updated this chart with the date of births of both Patrick and Oren in mind. Now, I'm going to tread a little bit lightly, but I do want to highlight the following. Right, so if we look on February the 4th, we have the red 4 and the red 6. That red 6 was highlighted before, pings directly on Patrick. Now we'll note that Patrick and Oren have very similar numbers. And of course, the obvious difference for me is we'll note that Patrick has the 13-4, and that's who he will be in the day. So the 13-4 is who he is in the day, whereas his father has the 22-4, which is a power number. The 13-4, if we had to go on a bit of a negative on the 13-4, I mean, of course, every number has a positive or many positives. But that 13-4 makes Patrick the killer. That 13-4 is quite a brutal number if you had to move the lever to the dark side of the spectrum. And of course, let's please also note, don't compare your numbers, because this is in relation to the rest of his numbers and what feeds into that 13-4 as the killer, because I do believe we have a match here. I do believe Patrick is definitely there. And there's another interesting anomaly, that the day of the arrest, the media day, and then today, which would be the 8th in South Africa, March the 8th, I'm recording this at 2:35 p.m. So we'll note that those 3 days reflect 3 days within where that crime took place, notably the 7th, 8th, and 9th of February. But we'll get to that in a minute. But let's finish off with this 13-4. We have the presence of the 6, can be very violent, aggressive, not very nice. And now we're obviously looking this at the end of the scale, right? And we have that 15-6. That is sexual deviance, if you want to look at it that way. he will, in his life, go through quite a fair amount of struggle, the 5. So his life technically would not have been easy. So I would say, even though he's the son of a famous footballer, or rugby rules, beg your pardon, this is also what confirms for me that 13-4 is also about, and part of the negative is the destroyer, the killer. Whereas his father has the 22-4 in the same position, whereas now that 22-4 as a contrast would be the builder, the creator, building of big things. That is probably why that number, and I would also say maybe the 7, is what makes him famous and who he is and the big name he is. Unfortunately, Patrick has chosen the negative aspect of his 13-4, because the 13-4 is the author, the writer, it's the inner child. Very relevant number if you ever wanted to become an author or a writer, or even an editor. And that could even be text editor or even a video editor for that matter, storyteller. But if you tip the scale, mean bastard. So if we look at February the 4th, we have the 4, the 6 pings directly on Patrick. The 14-5, I must still say, tells me there's more than one person involved. Now, we can also appreciate it, and I'm leading you onto something here, because I believe I have discovered something here. The 14-5, where it sits, or the position, is from sunset to midnight. So we can appreciate that number is in play once the sun sets, which tells me there's problems with this young man. And it's also reflected on the 5 in the February. The start of the day starts with the 5. The day ends on the 4th with a 5. Now, he must have been going through some serious psychological overheating, whatever you want to call it, having just killed someone. I know in my previous video I mentioned I suspect that she would have been alive until at least February the 8th. Well, the preliminary report at the moment is that they suspect she died immediately. So we'll wait to hear on that one. But not to get distracted, the 14-5 and the 5 on the next day tells me this guy was in trouble. Or the enormity of the event obviously affected him. And interestingly, in the previous video, I said that blue 7 bothered me. And I believe I figured out who and what that blue 7 is. I believe, and I'm going to say it, Daddy came onto the scene. This is where I believe Daddy came onto the scene. Now, I had Oren's date of birth first. And you can already see just on that, there's a lot of pinging going on around here as well on him. Now, like I said in the beginning, he has very similar numbers. There's a difference also in the top line, the 6, although Patrick has a, let's call it a solid 6, whereas Oren has the 15-6, right, which matches the outcome of the life path of his son. And I've mentioned in previous videos, parents and children more often than not, reflect each other. And these two were like twins. They both have 2s in the year that they're born. That is deep, like spiritual connection, family matters. The difference with Oren, he has the 24-6, which, as mentioned before, he is the builder. 24-6 is building family, is creating family, making family. Oren would be the family man. I would say maybe a little hyped up, but the family man. Whereas Patrick, as a 15-6, he's going to be bumping and scratching his knees his whole way through his life. Whereas his father would, I guess Patrick would have felt the pressure of the success of his father and would impact him in some way. In fact, would ping directly on him, 15-6. And the 6. Both got 6s. These guys were tight. These guys were like twins. So the 7 for me always bugged me. And in this case, it's the father. It's like the father figure, the higher father. Or if you want to be colloquial, the bigger me type thing. And we note that Oren does have a solid 7 as well. They both have solid 7s. Now, hear me out. There's 2 more points that confirm for me that there was involvement by Oren's side as well. And I will do a disclaimer. This is obviously alleged, but this is very, very interesting. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to follow the 7s. I mentioned this in my previous video. It was pinging on me, but I couldn't get it. So here we go. February 5, we have that 7 in the day. Patrick is in turmoil that evening on the 4th. Now, I also do believe, and I've had this impression twice, and again now the 3rd time, that he may have placed the body at, let's say, position A and went home. But overnight and in the morning, he was freaking out. This guy was freaking out. For whatever reason, obviously the heinous crime that he's just committed. But it would appear that he could not handle the situation alone. And I believe he spoke with his father on February the 5th. I've got this situation. Now we're going to follow the 7s. I would say by February the 6th, the father went ballistic. I don't believe the mother or the wife would have known by this stage. However, on February the 6th, I believe both Stevensons moved the body. And in the first video, I had a very terrible energy pop out of, if you like, the ground where she was, or when they find her. Because I believe what they're going to find would be classified as a gruesome or grisly murder. And unfortunately, I believe on February the 6th, they were trying to discard of the body as much as possible. If you get my drift. I'm literally going to take a moment. All right, so I'm going to carry on now. It was only about a minute. Because the energy that I felt coming out of the ground when they do find out, I do believe they will find Samantha's remains. They will. I'm getting it again. Let's say the realization or the extent of the crime will be revealed, of course. This is probably why he does not want to reveal where Samantha's body is now, because that will give the police a lot of clues, obviously, right? And it's a trick by these wannabe serial killers that the more discarded the body, the more discarded the evidence, right? So I mentioned in the first video, let's go there, because we're still busy with the sevens, beg your pardon. The big reveal is coming soon, I promise you. The 16-7 that you might have seen in the thumbnail there is the clue of what is to come. So if we continue to follow the sevens, at the end of the day, February the 6th, Father has taken lead on the operation. Father has taken lead on the operation. Then we get to February the 7th. We've got the 7, 9, discussion about murder. It's about murder. And there's a conversation, 17, 8. And we'll note the 888s there in the column. February the 7th is the build-up. So I would actually say, I'm going to include February the 7th. So you're going to see the time traveler version. February 7 was not highlighted in any color. I'm now going to make it red, because I believe by the end of February the 7th, actually, February the 7th is when the wife found out, or the mother. So at this stage, the Stevenson family, February the 7th, by the end of that day, the mom would have also known about the murder. All right, so February the 7th, the family definitely know about the murder. The whole family, like the mother and the father obviously knows. So that when we get to February the 8th, and this confirms it for me, 8, communication, the start of the day, 8, it's in that triangle. 10-1 is family. There's communication to the family about a murder, 18-9. And this would have destabilized the family, and I'm just going to say it would have, because on February the 9th, you have the 9, which is the murder. 11-2, that household would have been shaky. And for the sake of the family, they're keeping it a secret. And this is what I'm getting to. They're going to keep it a secret. The behavior by Patrick currently, and like I say, I'm recording this on the March 8th at now 2:52 p.m. I believe Patrick is going to be very stoop on this one. And the reason being, it's because it involves his family. His father participated, accessory after the fact. And there would be another charge as well, unfortunately. And then, of course, the mother knowing from the 7th onwards. Definitely by midnight the 7th, mom would have known as well. And unfortunately for Samantha and her family, they had been in trauma since February the 4th. But I do believe, based on, we've got matches on when the arrest was made, when the media day was, it all matches in that zone of when the crime took place. So I believe Patrick is the person. However, unfortunately, I do believe, please don't go because there's a cliffhanger here. Patrick is not done. We've got something about Patrick coming up. And let's go there now. While seeing this case about Samantha, there was an attack on Sissy Austin. She was recently on a 60-minute Australian 60-minute series, right? And she had been attacked in that same park, albeit, let's say, according to reports, 20 kilometers away, but within that region, right? So what I thought of doing was, well, the reason why I looked to see if Patrick had any kind of involvement was because you'll note in the beginning of my video, one of the first things I said was there's a serial killer around here. And I believe Patrick was becoming a serial killer. But I believe he has done this before. I mentioned in the first video. He had done this before. And whether it was with Sissy or with anyone else, there was definitely had done it before. Now, we'll note just on the physical that it happened pretty much around about the same time in February, a year apart. So that's also like a clue that this young gentleman was aiming to be a serial killer. And he still had his training wheels on, fortunately for Sissy. That we'll note the attack happened on February the 11th, 2023. And this is the day, and I'll show why I believe Sissy was saved, because the perpetrator, as she had described, left her for dead. And the pictures of her attack are available, but please be warned, it is graphic. I'm not going to show it here, but they were showing it on that 60-minute series, and when I was Googling for a picture now, I saw the same picture. So it was a horrific attack. And of course, the male perpetrator thought he had done her, right? So I thought, let's just have a look. So that February 11, we have two double 11 twos. Now, this is where I believe, and because of the structure of these numbers and the presence of these numbers on this particular day, is the reason why she survived. 11-2, 11-2 is like hit and miss, maybe. So here's a good comparison I've just been shown to show you. Thank you. The red 2 is, let's call it a solid 2, right? The 11, which gives you the 2, is there's ways and means to get to the 2. It's 2 ones, and in a lot of cases, or the flip side, let's say, it's a bit of a wobbly number. So whether he was confident enough or wasn't 100% sure or whatever, and then the other side of the coin is it's 50-50 whether she would survive or not. And of course, with the presence of those 11 twos, I believe is the reason why she survived. However, interesting to note that in the day, we have that red 13-4, which pings directly on Patrick. Directly on Patrick. So we've got the next day, those 12 threes, abuse of women. Now the kicker comes in the day after, February the 13th, big reflection. 13-4 pings on Patrick. 15-6 pings directly on Patrick. We have the presence of the 2s on all the days, pings on Patrick. We have the presence of 7s on all days, pings directly on Patrick. This, I believe, was the person responsible for the attack on Sissy. Or you can't get any more pings like this. In fact, all these numbers are pinged red. It's like a direct match. So if I was the local Victoria Police or the, however it's broken up there in Australia, I would look into this gentleman on the day of the attack against Sissy Austin. I believe we may have a winner. So I believe there was a message given to me, actually. I'm going back to the main slide. They're never going to let him out again. And when I heard that message given to me, it also confirmed, sadly, that I don't believe Patrick will ever spill the beans on what happened and how it happened. Ever. And the reason he won't do it is because it involves his father. And they are twins. They are pea in a pod. Yeah. As mentioned, I do believe the authorities will find Samantha's remains. All right, I'm going to leave it there for now. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. I always like to respond and read them. And please stay safe and stay alert. And I'll see you in the next one.